You're listening to Living in Spain podcasts with David Wright.
Good morning, Almeria. Welcome to my show, The Wright Way, with me, David Wright. A big thanks to Nikki Noodles for another great show. Thanks, Nikki. Okay, so here's what's coming up on today's show. Driving in Spain and some crazy Spanish driving rules that we really should know. Plus, how to get your car insurance premiums down every year. That's coming up a little later on in the show, so stay tuned in as I'm going to give you some money-saving tips on how to get your car, motorbike and house premiums down every year. First, here's some basic rules about driving in Spain that we all should know. See how many you know. All drivers in Spain must carry 2 warning triangles if the car is registered in Spain. Motorists must also carry a complete set of spare bulbs, fuses, a spare wheel, plus any necessary tools needed to change the wheel. And drivers in Spain are required to wear a high-visibility jacket or vest when getting out of their car on intercity roads, and that means that the yellow jacket needs to be in the car with you, handy, not in your boot. There are also now new flashing lights that you can use, called the V16 flashing lights. These are magnetic lights that work off batteries and they stick on the roof of your car when you break down. They're much easier to handle, they're easier to store in a car, and you just stick it on the roof, it sticks automatically. Most hardware stores now sell these, and some supermarkets sell them as well, or your local Chinese pawn shop, or whatever you like to call it, they do them as well. If your car breaks down in Spain, then you risk a fine if you don't use warning triangles or lights and the high visibility jacket. If a person requires glasses or contact lenses for driving here, then it is a legal requirement to carry a spare pair while driving. This can be expensive here, as a friend of mine paid over €800 for her reading glasses, which are bifocals and she needs for driving, so she had to buy 2 pairs, the second pair to be kept in the car. Remember, drivers also need to carry relevant licenses and insurance documents in the car at all times. A photocopy of these documents is okay if you don't want to carry the original, but you may be asked to bring the original to the police station within 7 days if you show them, when stopped, a copy of the documents. When I'm out on my motorbike, I carry printed photocopies of my documents, as the side bags on my bike are not really secure, so that's why I carry copies of the documents, the insurance and all my details, and I've never had any trouble yet. Nationals from outside the EU can drive in Spain using their existing foreign driver's licence. However, they must also carry the international driving permit at all times. Driving and carrying only one of these documents, or none of these documents, can lead to a fine of up to €500 now. Ouch. And you may be obliged to pay the fine on the spot in cash or credit card if you haven't got an NIE number or Spanish residency, although they do allow a 50% discount if you pay immediately. Several years ago, on my way home from work, I was driving on the motorway near Granada. We just finished a big job and I had 4 guys in the car that worked for me. One of the guys, the passenger, was asleep and he didn't have his seatbelt on. Anyway, we're driving along on the motorway, almost home, and along comes a police motorbike. He drove past me, slowed down a bit, had a look in the window and pulled me in. It's obvious what he'd seen. Anyway, I tapped the guy on the shoulder. I said, "Wake up, put your seatbelt on quick." It was too late. The police had already seen it. The policeman walked over, he checked my details, checked all the documents out, and then he started to write me out a ticket. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "It's €65 fine because your passenger wasn't wearing a seatbelt and you have to pay." Me, the driver. So I said, "No, he was wearing a seatbelt." He said, "No, I saw him. When I drove past, he wasn't wearing the seatbelt. €65. So fair enough, it was a fair cop, gov. I had to pay the €65. I took that out of my employee's wages a bit later on that day. He wasn't very happy about it, but it was his choice not to wear a seatbelt, not mine. There are also now many new cameras on main roads now that are not just looking out for speeding motorists. They're trying to catch you out if you're not wearing a seatbelt or if you're talking or using your mobile phone. Here's another quick story. Several years ago, on my way home from Malaga Airport, after dropping off a friend at the airport there, I was driving along the motorway, and there's a part when you just come out of Malaga Airport where it drops from 120 to 100 for a little while, and I didn't see it. Several minutes later, I arrived at my turn-off to exit the motorway, and as I'm driving off the motorway on the slip road, there's this little roundabout on the slip road, and I could see a couple of cop cars in front of me, and they were pulling drivers in. They pulled me over and told me that I was speeding. I looked at them and I said, no, I'm driving properly, I was doing the correct limit and everything like that. And they said, no, when you came out of the airport, you were doing 118 and it was only 100. And he said, if you want to have a look, we've got a copy of it and a photo in the car in front. So fair enough, they caught me, and they issued me with a €200 fine. They told me if I wanted to pay the fine within 20 days, then it would be half price. There's also loads of new cameras out and about in towns and cities here now in Spain. And then you've got the spinning camera cars. These are cars with cameras on the roof. They're normally council cars or they work for the police. And they're driving around. The spinning camera on the top is checking number plates to see if people have got insurance. They're also checking to see if you're double parked or if you're in areas that you shouldn't be. And they don't stop and give you a ticket. They just send it to you in the post. So you might not even understand what you've done wrong until you get that ticket a couple of weeks later in the post. Here in Almeria City, the cars are out all the time and it's a bit of a cat and mouse game when you're looking for a parking space in town. So drive safe and follow the rules, guys. Big Brother is watching you. The minimum driving age in Spain is 18 years old, and if you're 17 or younger, then you will not be allowed to drive, even if you have a driving licence issued by your own home country. Now, some crazy Spanish rules for driving here. Let's see how many of these you know. Mobile phones. Come on, we've all done it. Using or even holding your mobile phone when you're driving is a fine and 6 points on your licence. Some police are now fining motorists if the phone is on the seat next to them or in their lap. It has to be in a proper holder and hands-free. Driving in the left-hand lane when the right-hand lane is clear. That will get you a fine of €200. So remember, guys, don't be a road hog. If there's no one in the right-hand lane, pull over. If you overtake these people on the inside, that is also an offence and you can get a fine. Okay, so we've all seen the bad drivers here, and they're not always Spanish either. So if you've been cut up or you've had some idiot pull out in front of you, we've all like to do the hand gestures now and again, but guys, don't do it. Even that has an €80 fine attached if you get caught. If you're driving to the beach this summer, then listen up. There are some great beaches in Spain. We all love to go to the beach, and normally we dress for the occasion. But don't wear sandals or flip-flops or even drive barefooted. While driving barefooted here or breaking any of these rules, that is also a driving offence and you will get fined and points on your licence. And put your shirt on. Driving shirtless here now is also an offence and finable. There's always police patrols near the beaches here daily, especially in the summer months, so watch out guys, you've been warned. Traffic lights. When you pull up at traffic lights here in Spain, you must concentrate on the lights. There's no doing your makeup, checking your teeth or brushing your hair, or even checking your mobile phone to see if you've had any messages. All these are lack of attention and can get you a fine. Now when overtaking cyclists here, you need to leave at least 1.5 metres distance from you and the cyclist. If not, it's 6 points on your licence and a fine. Lots of cyclists now have these helmet cams and they're recording drivers and number plates, so make sure you give them plenty of room, guys. The alcohol limits for driving in Spain are far lower than the UK, so watch out for this one as well. 0.5 grams of alcohol per litre of blood and only 0.25 milligrams per litre of exhaled air in a breathalyzer test. Now you can get up to €1,000 fine and 6 points on your licence for this, so soft drinks guys when you're driving. You may think you're living out in the countryside or off the beaten track a little bit, away from the touristy areas. But guys, the police are out and they're doing these checks now more often, so watch out. Now, if you are fined here, it can be an on-the-spot fine, but you normally have 45 days to pay the fines. And if you pay under 20 days, you get 50% reduction off the cost of the fine. You can pay these fines at the bank or the Trafico office or at your post office. But just remember, if you pay at the post office like I did for a speeding ticket some time ago, naughty boy, then they charge you €15 for the privilege of taking your money. Thanks very much. Now, how to get your car or motorbike insurance premiums down every year. This also works with house cover as well. Okay, so here's an insider tip that I got from a good Spanish friend of mine that worked for an insurance company here for many years. He passed his tip on to me and it works every time. Now you do need to be polite when doing this and use the right wording, so here goes. A few days before your insurance is due, call up your insurance company and ask them how much your next payments are going to be. You should have already made a note of this, what your next payments will be. Write it down on a piece of paper next to you. And then right next to that piece of paper with the number, take off €35 more or less to the number. And then write that down next to it. Now write the number down to the exact centimos. So for example, if you're looking at a figure of 258 euros, put down 258.35 cents and make a note of that so it sounds believable. Now this is not really a lie. You could spend hours shopping around or ringing around for different quotes and play one company off against the other, but I found this is a much better way of doing it. It works faster and it works every time. Okay, so when the nice person on the other end of the line tells you what your next payments are going to be, this is what you say. Well, I would really like to stay with your company this year, but I've had a much better quote from another company. And this is when they ask you what company. And I always respond AXA. The reason I say AXA is because my friend told me that they can't check on that on their computer for some reason. But you could say some other insurance company. Then you say the amount you were quoted from the other company, stating that it's around 35 euros cheaper than what you paid last year. Then I say, well, is there anything you can do for me, or should I go with this other company? Now, they're not going to tell you to go with this other company. They want your money. They want your business. They might ask you some questions like, does it cover windscreen insurance? Does it cover this and that and all the others? And I always say, yeah, it's a very similar policy, but it is a lot cheaper. It's over 35 euros cheaper. Then I say, is there anything you can do to match it? I would like to pay today on my credit card if you could help me. Saying things like, can you help me? And I'm ready to pay now. That really helps. They will want to bend over backwards to help you. They want the payment. They normally say, oh, hang on a moment, I'll have to speak to my manager. Then, when I've listened to some of this lovely cheesy music that we all hate for a few minutes, they say, oh, hello, Mr. Wright. Well, I've got some really good news for you today. We're going to do it for this amount. And they normally quote what I've asked for, or around 35 euros, or in some cases even less. They really do try and match it, and they want your business, especially if they know you're going to pay now. Then I say, okay, that sounds great. I'll go with you now. And I normally end up paying them. So I'm saving myself 35 euros or more every year on my premiums. This is something I do every year, a couple of days before my premiums are due, on my cars and on my motorbike. And it's always worked for me for the last 4 years now. So it will work for you as well, guys, if you try. On my podcast, I even recorded the conversation I had with my insurance company the last time I did this, just a few months ago. And you can see and hear exactly what I do and follow the same wording, and you'll get the same deal as well. So there you go. Now you know some crazy driving rules here in Spain. And you know how to get cheaper car insurance as well. Try it. Let me know how it goes for you. You might even be able to get a better deal than I did. Let us know how that goes. And let me know what you think the best insurance company is here and why. Let's share the info with everyone. We'll all get some discounts. So I hope you've learned something new from my show today. Drive safe out there, guys. And that's it from me for another week. You can send me your questions or comments to my page here at Almeria Radio. That's David at almeriaradio.live. You have been listening to The Wright Way with me, David Wright, on Almeria Radio 107.5 FM. Coming up next is the Sunday Lunch Show with Terry Stevens. Thanks for listening and adios.
If you have enjoyed this podcast by David Wright, then you will love his new books. Out now on Amazon and Kindle, packed with money-saving tips and information on living and working in Spain. Just go to livinginspainbooks.com. David also has a popular blog for expats in Spain. Come and take a look now at britishexpatsinspain.com.